what is the ideal controller? What is the ideal um controller landscape, right? I think the ideal controller landscape is one where, let me pull up the tier list as well. The ideal controller landscape is where all of them, or that we can have as many people as possible use a similar as possible controllers, right? I think everyone should agree with that, right? We want as many different inputs as possible if you're for box, but more importantly, we want similar strength available to everyone, right? I don't think that's too crazy of a thing. The problem with this thinking is that if you try to make, if you then ban every modded controller, OEMs actually have a big controller lottery, and this has always been an issue. OEM, the difference between a good OEM and a bad OEM can be quite significant. However, and we can make this right, like, so if C tier is an average OEM, and like this is an OEM that you got, and then let's say it had snapback, you get a snapback capacitor. Like it's like $10 to $30 modding plus an OEM. You want notches, you can get notches, but obviously like these are like different. This is just an average controller with like that's like made up as good as it could be, right? And then wait, is this the Phob? Oh. This is an average OEM. And then you have the peak OEM. So this is peak OEM. This one is significantly better. It is an entire tier above C tier, right? It is significantly better. This one has better pivots, better dash back at a crouch, probably less snapback, and could have other issues such as easier down forward ledge dashes. However, even with the best OEM, I don't think doing down forward ledge dashes is ever really worth it if you're calculating for the, like, it's not worth it on most characters at the very least. It is, you know, maybe on Marth sometimes you want 1 Gillian or something, but like it actually doesn't change that much decision making to have a good OEM versus an average one. And simply due to how fast OEMs degrade, you basically have to lean safe with a lot of your inputs. You can't do shit that only the peak OEM can, because if you do that and then your controller degrades, then you have to change playstyles. So essentially, the playstyle difference between an average OEM and a peak OEM is very small relatively. It is still a tier. This tier difference right here is why people aren't okay with just using OEM. Right? That's the only, this is the issue, that if we just ban everything else, there's still a controller lottery. However, this is the problem. A good Phob is an A tier. Right? This one has better notches, better dash back at a crouch. Wave shaping is essentially like kind of cheating in my opinion. Like, yeah, it's like a black box. People don't really know how it works, most people. I'm sure there's some people that do, but they're kind of hand waving it, and like, yeah, you can change how pivots work and stuff like that, and you can get essentially kind of cheater pivots without, you know, actually doing it by a macro like a Goomwave. It's like kind of cheating, but not really compared to an average OEM. You will definitely notice if someone has a peak Phob and you're playing on a good OEM, you will still notice. If you play on someone who has an average control, you will definitely notice if they have a good one. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's as bad. If Goomwave is full on like this is bad, this is macros. I would say if Wave, like if Goomwave is steroids, then I think Phob is like high altitude training. Like it's barely within the right, or maybe going to the doctor and saying you have low testosterone levels and like eating candy and eating like shit to lower your testosterone levels. It's like technically okay, but like it's still like bending the rules, I would say. It's definitely like if you and your friends were talking and having a friendly match, you'd consider it cheating. Um Now, here's the biggest problem I think with the Phob infrastructure. The average Phob is down here. This is the problem. The average Phob is utter dog shit. Maybe there's some Phobs that are up here, but the average Phob is so fucking bad. This is the reason why a lot of people have either not swapped over to Phob or have gone back to OEM, like Zane. The problem with this is that, someone knocked over my controller, it instantly broke. Someone shipped a Phob, it broke. It gives random inputs, it's unpredictable in a way that an OEM is not. Especially since we've had like 20 years of actual OEM experience, so you can kind of know. And then all the other issues, right? So I talked to Knuckles about this too, and he agrees that the difference between a peak Phob and an average Phob is absolutely insane. Cody has Emily who makes Phobs, who he says is the only one that makes a good one, and she spends a full-on week testing and making it. I get a fucking Phob, spending $500 from 3 different people, and out of the box it feels like dog shit and can't be used. Yeah, maybe I'll do like this. Peak and then peak. Just so people know which one's which. No, they were not from EU modders. I've tried a Phob that Cardano made, but that one was not good. But he said that he was very new to it, and like that one was made to feel like an OEM, but it did not feel good. Yeah, the problem is if you travel, if you actually wear and tear your Phob, it will break. It is so fragile. I have spiked controllers. Put some Leffen bangers in the chat. I have spiked controllers and then picked them up and they worked. Perfect, like just as good. Phobs have broken from opening them up to maintenance. The last one I did, the one which was glued, which I had in a controller case the entire way home, and I held it so I know it was not bumped into, broke just by opening it. The difference in like actual quality is insane. Like Phobs break so fucking easily. Which is like, I know that people that sit in Discords and just make 50 boards and never play on them. I know. Maybe you just didn't play NetPlay. I know you don't get this. But having controllers be able to take basic beatings, like having them in a bag, having someone else, like move it, not just like simultaneously combust when you open the controller. is a huge deal, right? Okay. This is the controversial take. And some people will probably disagree with me. This tier list is based on what is best to play with. I'm adding dog shit for average Phob. Goomwave is the peak Goomwave is worse than peak Phob. If this was not the case, then I promise you would not see people like IBDW and myself swap. This is the thing is the Goomwave cheats more, but because of how it cheats, it has so many side effects that it effectively is worse than a peak Phob. The reason why Mango swap back and Null swap back from Phob was not because, to Goomwave was not because, it's better than the Phob. It's because Phobs are so buggy, and that Goomwaves are more stable. They have less problems. Is way better for worse players. I don't think worse player should really be a big factor. And I'm not even sure that's true because Goomwaves are harder to learn with because they're weird. Yeah, there's an option you can turn on which has dashback at a crouch, but that option should not be on. Because if it's on, you will suffer more than you will gain. And dashbacking out of crouch with a Phob is not hard if it's good. Yeah, exactly. Like the Goomwave is just less consistent. But if there's a bad Goomwave, it's only down here. It's still above a peak GameCube controller, probably. No, wait, it's slightly below. But the difference between the best Goomwave and a bad Goomwave is the smallest out of any controller, I would say. Right. Let's add a couple more tiers because we're getting into boxes. Panda Controller, scam. All right. So, I mean, everyone should know this. Oh, shit. It looks like dog shit like that. Smashbox is like 5 tiers above anything else. The fact that anyone even considers complaining about Goomwaves or people using Goomwaves when people are out there playing at majors with Smashboxes is fucking absurd. It is fucking absurd. I will tell you where LBX is. Now, remember, this list is not what you should buy. This is not what is the best product. I think the Smashbox is a pretty mid product, if not bad sometimes. It definitely needs updating. Likely, in the same way, I think the box is a terrible product. It is bad value. It's outdated. It literally is supporting terrible people. And like the build quality is bad. I've had one. I've never thought of using it. Like it's just a bad product. But I still think a box has an argument to be better than a Frame 1. Why? Because they keep adding buffs to it. They just keep buffing it. It just got a new buff like 2 weeks ago. Where you can up B without caring about tap jump. Like no tap jump up B is now consistent angle. And crouch walk, which does not exist. and stuff like that. I think frame one will, like right now they're probably still in the same tier, but like they're essentially the same. They're essentially the same. Like it doesn't matter. DIY is also in the same tier. I would definitely recommend getting a DIY over a box if you can't get one. LBX is also in this tier. LBX is probably in. It's hard to rank LBX. Like same thing with this Prism. Anything that's open, same thing with DIY, is probably here because you can just cheat. You can just cheat. Like, or if you're not even cheating, you can just Smashbox it, right? Like, because they're open source, you can just add whatever the fuck you want, and there's nothing stopping you. I genuinely do think that if you play on an average GameCube controller and you play against a frame one, it is like a 7-3 matchup. Or like a Smashbox, or like it's fucking bad. It is fucking bad. It's maybe not 7-3, but it's like, it's bad. The problem is that like I think when a GameCube controller is working as perfectly as possible, when the controller works, when nothing has broken recently, when you've used this controller for like 5 months without it breaking, then it's kind of fine. Then the matchup might just be 55-45. But the difference between that and like a controller, like, you know, which often happens is when a controller breaks the day before, something has changed, like the controller gives a random input. These times could be much, much worse than just a slight advantage. This could be a huge advantage. Thank you, Chopper, for the gifted. Yeah, exactly. There definitely needs to be anti-cheating for boxes. DIY is better than Smashbox. You can DIY Smashbox too, and it has more buttons. Most people that do DIY, I mean, Smashbox is just in its own tier because it's funny and because it's sold out of the box broken. Obviously, you can make a DIY, but I think if you here's the thing: if you made a DIY with the same features as Smashbox, it'd be banned. You'd be banned. That's the honest to God truth. And you know this yourself. If you made a Smashbox DIY and you said, "This is my own controller. I made this from scratch," people will be like, "Hell no, you didn't. Fuck you." I don't really. I mean, keyboard is good. It essentially has no real drawbacks compared to Frame One and box, except that you can't. It's hard to bring to tournaments. Prism. This is just a different ergonomic. Bongos. Better than average Phob. Posting time. No, I think it's funnier if Panda Controller is there. Smash Stick? Oh shit, Smash Stick should also be in Scam. Average Phob has an argument for Scam tier. Fact or cap? If you could make the left roller, which is a control stick on the left, like let's say a Phob control stick on the left and a box layout on the right, it would probably be like here. Like it'd be above peak Phob, but like barely.